I don't know when I got this picture. I think it was in the summer many years ago in Cape May, New Jersey. What I do know is that this print has been hanging in my dining room for many years. At one time I found the name of the artist who painted it, but now I can't remember the artist's name. I can't even find the piece of paper I wrote it down on. Maybe somebody watching this reflection might know. And then there's somebody who might be watching this reflection right now and asking, isn't it Monday? And if it's Monday, isn't this the day that Tim Keyes posts his weekly reflection? Why is Monsignor doing it? Now, if you're like me, over the past 11 plus weeks, I don't even know what day of the week it is sometimes. But I do know that today is Monday. And seriously, I asked Tim to work on another project, and I told him that I would guest host his usual time slot. That being said, today is the feast of Mary, the Mother of the Church. This feast is a new one. Pope Francis started it last year and decided it should always be celebrated on the Monday after Pentecost. The inspiration from the feast comes from today's first reading. It's from the Acts of the Apostles. After Jesus had been taken up to heaven, the apostles returned to Jerusalem from the mount called Olivet, which is near Jerusalem, a Sabbath day's journey away. When they entered the city, they went to the upper room where they were staying. Peter and John, James and Andrew, Philip and Thomas, Bartholomew and Matthew, James, son of Alphaeus, Simon the Zealot, Judas, son of James. All of them devoted themselves with one accord to prayer, together with some women, and Mary, the mother of Jesus. The title Mary, the Mother of the Church, is not a new one. It goes back to the 4th century, to St. Ambrose, who was the Bishop of Milan. He first used this title. But it wasn't discovered that he used this title, Mary, the Mother of the Church, until 1944, when a theologian studying Ambrose's writings found the title. Then about 20 years later, during the Second Vatican Council, Pope Paul VI, who is now St. Paul VI, he quoted St. Ambrose in one of his speeches, and he called Mary the Mother of the Church. Now, it's also interesting to note that Pope Paul had been the Archbishop of Milan before he became Pope, and our own patron St. Charles Borromeo was the Archbishop of Milan. Pope Paul had in his mind the image of the early church when he called Mary the Mother of the Church. What I just read from the Acts of the Apostles, the disciples sitting together in the upper room when the Holy Spirit came upon them, and with them was Mary, the Mother of Jesus. For Pope Paul, the image of Mary in the upper room was a symbol of the mission of the church. Like Mary, the church is to bring Jesus into the world. The same Spirit that came to Mary at the Annunciation and later at Pentecost is now today with the church. Mary is the mother who reminds us of our mission and the power of the Spirit. That is why Pope Francis instituted this feast. So I was sitting in my dining room thinking about this reflection, and every time I looked up, I saw this picture. There's something very peaceful and beautiful about it. Given the sun's position in the sky, I'm not certain if it's the dawning of a new day or the setting of the sun in the evening. And that is why I think it's a perfect picture to use for meditation on the feast of Mary, the Mother of the Church. The woman leaning toward the sheep is wearing red. In iconography, red is used to represent humanity. Mary shares our humanity. As the first disciple, she knows the joys and sorrows, the struggles, the uncertainty and the adventure of human life. And she knows that the Spirit is with us and with every human person to help find the way. Think for a moment right now. Where today do you need the Spirit to help you in your human life to find the way? In the picture, the woman stands between an older man and a boy. The sheep before her have been led to the water. Like Mary at Pentecost, the woman in the middle of the two is present to both of them. She stands between a man who perhaps represents the wisdom of age and tradition, and a boy who represents the enthusiasm, energy, and joy of youth. In all the centuries the church has existed, it needs both the wisdom of tradition and the risk to move boldly forward in new ways. When the church does not have one or the other, it struggles to be its true self and to live its mission. Where today do you need to embrace more the tradition and the wisdom of the church? And perhaps where in your life today do you need the Spirit's help to have more enthusiasm, energy, and joy as a member of the church? The sheep, of course, need no explanation. The Bible is filled with images of the flock of the Lord. What's interesting is that the group stands behind them, not in front of them as shepherds normally do, leading the sheep. Mary reminds us that the church must always lead and guide. But like that woman standing behind the sheep, the church must also watch over the flock, respectful of where people are at, and help them take the steps they need themselves towards the waters of life. But you know what intrigues me most in this picture is why the woman has the lantern so close to the ground. Usually you hold a lamp high to show the way or to make something visible. She holds it near two lambs who almost blend into the picture and could be easily missed. Is she directing our attention toward those lambs? The older man is looking down at them. The boy is looking to the distance. The mission of the church is to shine the light on the most vulnerable of the world, those who are easily missed or too often ignored. I'm reminded of the verse from the Psalm 119. Your word is a lamp for my feet, a light for my path. The church, especially in these difficult days, is called to walk the path of justice and peace, to place our gaze on those who are vulnerable and not look away. We must challenge one another to walk with the light of Jesus each day. Every feast of Mary points to Jesus, that he is the head of the church, the true shepherd who gathers us together as one flock. And today's feast reminds us that each of us, every one of us, is the church. I can't believe that today is June 1st, can you? This month will hopefully see us back in church, although in a limited way. My prayer is that these last long weeks have taught us what we needed perhaps to relearn, that we are the church, that the church exists in our homes, in our work, and in our school, that the church belongs to us, and it is with us at the beginning of each day and the end of each day. Today's feast reminds us that Mary, the mother of the church, will always be in our midst.